Hello everyone. Today is November 26th, 2021. These are the following important articles that one has to read for competitive exams for daily current affairs. The first article is Bring in 3 rate GST structure. So, you have to do a comparative study on the current GST rate structure and the 3 rate GST structure that these people, the NIPFP study report, is suggesting. That is what you have to read from this article. This is very, very important. This might happen in the future. This might happen by the time you might be writing the prelims or mains examination. So that is why do allocate certain bit of time and space for this article. The next article is government to revisit income criterion for EWS quota. So this is a bit of back and forth, because you have to understand what EWS quota is and what were the parameters under which students or individuals are identified for EWS quota. From that perspective, you have to read this article. Apart from that, I don't see much of an importance in this regard. Just be aware of what EWS quota is in the first place. Now moving on, 10,000 crore more allocated for or allotted for MGNREGS Manrega. So this is a learn anything and everything about Manrega. The starting to the current picture. You have to be absolutely clear on all the parameters, all the major judgments, all the major decisions taken by the various governments in regards to Manrega. Because remember, Manrega was the biggest safety net program that ensured people did not go hungry during COVID-19 pandemic. So in that backdrop, in that significant backdrop, you have to be aware of Manrega, because even if they might not ask in this direction, they might ask from any other direction or any other point of view that is related to Manrega. Moving on, deploy more central forces in Tripura, Supreme Court orders MHA. So understand what is taking place or what is transpiring in Tripura from exam point of view. I don't see much of an importance, but having an understanding of internal security issues is also always a welcome sign. From that perspective, go about this article. From exam point of view, not important. Now coming to page number 8, that is editorial. The first article is Setting the Tone at Glasgow, the Job Ahead in Delhi. So this is particularly in regards to India's pledge to reach net zero emissions by 2070 that Indian Prime Minister had made at COP26 in Glasgow that took place last month. So from that perspective, this article becomes important. So you have to do a bit of background reading in regards to net zero emissions in regards to COP26. From that perspective becomes very important. The next article is measuring progress. This is in regards to NFHS 5 study or report or survey. So the fertility ratio, right? That fertility ratio of 2% dropping further from 2.2% or 2.2 is a worry sign for Indian growth and Indian economic trajectory. So not only in terms of economy but also in terms of population. So from that perspective, it becomes a very interesting dynamic to see this kinds of figures coming out of surveys, family health surveys, and so on and so forth. So please do give a bit of attention to this survey and the data that this survey has brought forward, and try to learn more about the impact of this data or this findings, this survey's finding is going to have on future of Indian population and also economy. So moving on to op-ed. Is the crypto asset boom sustainable? So I'm not saying that you read this interview or you read this article. My suggestion is go a bit out of the newspaper and start learning more about cryptocurrencies. Not from sources that you generally allocate yourself to. Go beyond those sources for at least this bit of news item. Cryptocurrencies are a complicated bit of business. You don't need traditional news sources to explain you what cryptocurrencies are. My suggestion to you is for only cryptocurrency, this cryptocurrency only. Don't go or don't do this for any other topics. Just for the topic of cryptocurrency, go out of your traditional news sources and start learning more about cryptocurrencies, the current scenario of cryptocurrencies, and more importantly, from the science and technology perspective of it, the underlying technology of cryptocurrencies. See, the question that you have to ask yourself in this regard is, can the underlying technology of cryptocurrencies can be used or can be implemented by a government or by a country without using cryptocurrencies or without legalizing cryptocurrencies in the first place? For some reason, Indian government is taking this stand where they are saying that we don't like the cryptocurrencies, but what we like is the underlying technology of cryptocurrencies, that is blockchain technology. So what you have to understand is, by dividing those two things, by differentiating those two things, is the government doing a right job there? So from that perspective, you have to do a bit of research, because this is not only related to science and technology. This will have a huge impact on how the economic model of India is going to evolve in the future. So this, you have to do a comparative analysis on the traditional economic systems, this ecosystem, the underlying technologies, the blockchain technologies, and that is how you have to approach this article. This is going to be a very important point of discussion for any competitive exams in the future. That is my suggestion in this regard to cryptocurrencies. Now moving on to page number 10. So Scorpion class submarine INS Vela joins Navy. So you have to understand the classes of submarines that Indian Navy possesses. Why the Scorpion class is separate from or different from other classes. Why adding a new submarine to the fleet of naval submarines is a welcome sign. From that perspective, read this article. Again, whenever you are reading Navy submarines in this context, or at least in this era, it always trickle backs to the Navy's Project 75. Okay, be very understanding about it. Now coming to page number 11. China protests Rawat's comment on security threat. So yesterday we were reading that Mr. Rawat was making certain statements in regards to directly aiming at China. Now we have a response from there. Understand what they are saying here and pick out. Exam point of view not important, just be aware of what the back and forth is going on. You are well aware of the current scenario between both of our countries, not only at border areas but also in other areas too. All should respect laws passed by legislature review. So you have to read this article as the heading states. Just awareness article, so don't worry about it. Now moving on to page number 12. NFHS says women outnumber men. You have to do a post-mortem or a dissection of the NFHS survey. This survey carries a lot of weight from exam perspective. So my suggestion is, go back to the survey or find the summary of the survey from some site or somewhere else. But be careful, don't do a deep dive. Don't go into that research mode. Pick out the information that is important for exam, both prelims and mains and interview. From that perspective becomes important. Just stick to those points. Moving on, India faces rising bilateral issues at SEO. So what our External Affairs Ministry is saying here is, you are using platforms that were meant for economic discussions as platforms for raising bilateral issues. So what is the problem with that? From that perspective, you have to read this article. Now, panel setup for community kitchens. So understand the concept or the idea of community kitchens, how significant they are. Are there advantages? Are there any disadvantages of establishing such community kitchens? From that perspective, approach this article. Better connectivity with Bangladesh. So whenever we are talking about northeastern states, the prominent thing that comes up during discussions is the connectivity with northeastern states. So Here you have to understand the significance of establishing a proper network of transportation or connectivity lines with the northeastern states that pass through Bangladesh, and also the disadvantages of not having such robust connectivity or network transportation networks with northeastern states, how significant they are, and how would they transform the developmental trajectory of those states. Coming to page number 13, you should not have any illusions about Taiwan. So this is in regards to Taiwan scenario. From that perspective, read this article. 230 migrants crossed Belarus border by force, says Poland. So map pointing question, find out where these countries are. Russia puts into orbit classified military satellite. So you have to learn what anti-missile system is. From that perspective becomes important. Hazara leaders pledge support for Taliban, call for inclusive government. Learn about Hazaras from that perspective, important. Coming to page number 14, business. China non-committal on US oil release plan, OPEC plus unmoved. So learn about this oil release plan, and how it will impact oil prices around the world. Strong demand pace of jabs augur well. Moody's. This is again Moody's. This is in regards to GDP's growth rate. Understand what the factors that they are talking about. So these are the important articles that one has to read for competitive exams. Thank you. Namaste.